Welcome back to FNaF Throwback Theories, a series with so much self-loathing it's kinda funny. In this series, I took a look back in time towards FNaF theories I made a while ago through a modern lens. I discuss the evidence and some background information about the theories, and I talk about what could go against the theory as well. I come to a conclusion based on all this on whether or not the theory makes sense nowadays, and if it even made sense in the context of when I made it. In this video, we got a bit of a mixed bag. This is episode 4, where I'll be discussing a theory I made about the Fazbear Fright story Bunny Call, a theory I made about Mangle, and a theory about probably the most disliked story of Fazbear Frights in the flesh. Sounds like a fun time, right? Then let's get to it. I discussed in a previous video in this series how I once believed that every piece of FNaF media was in the same timeline, meaning all the books were in the game's timeline, and for whatever reason I believed characters that were parallels to characters from the games literally were those characters despite the names being different. Pretty stupid, right? Well, this first theory was made while I was kinda in the midst of transitioning out of that idea. I didn't really believe the books were in the games anymore, and I didn't believe supposed parallel characters were literally the characters I thought they paralleled. But despite this, I was kinda inserting events from the games in places they didn't quite belong. See, the story Bunny Call is about a grumpy dad named Bob who is kinda sick of the way his wife and kids treat him, and when they are at camp, which he doesn't want to do, he decides to get back at them by ordering a bunny call. During a bunny call, a person in a giant bunny costume holding cymbals called Ralpho would bust into the camp cabin, bashing the cymbals together and waking everyone up to scare them. Bob ends up feeling guilty and tries to call off the bunny call before it happens, and Ralpho seems to understand and walks away. However, he ends up coming back and trying really hard to get into the cabin, with Bob trying desperately to keep him out until 6 AM when the bunny calls are set to stop and Ralpho strangely just disappears. The whole incident caused Bob to appreciate his family more and care about them much more. Disregarding the subtext and lore of the story, my main focus with my theory was Bob's family. Bob's youngest child, his daughter Cindy, was only a few years old and had pigtails. Through quite a weak sauce connection, I decided Cindy was probably connected with Pigtail Girl from FNaF 4. Like I just said, this connection was pretty weak, only really based on the Pigtailed Girl aspect. Basically, the idea was about why Pigtail Girl was so weird in FNaF 4. If you remember, she spreads rumors about the animatronics moving around at night and secretly hiding bodies. If she was involved in a situation where such an incident of an animatronic going haywire and trying to kill people happened, it would make sense for her to spread rumors that that was the case. The problem is simply that the connection isn't very strong, and Ralpho also doesn't hide any bodies. That's also assuming Bob ever even told his family of the incident that happened that night, which he may not have. So yeah, the theory isn't really terrible, but it doesn't have very good evidence, so I don't think it's a good theory. Something else I also talked about in that video was Music Man, but that was again just a pretty weak connection based on only the fact that Music Man and Ralpho both have symbols. My idea at the time was that Ralpho could be the book's equivalent for Music Man, or that they came from the same place. Again, not a great theory, though not a terrible one. For whatever reason, this video actually got a pretty good amount of views, and I really don't know why, given it has one of the worst thumbnails I've ever made in my life. Like, what is this? You can't even read it properly. And why did I say confirmed when it was a theory? Anyway, moving on to the next theory video we'll be revisiting, and this is one that I actually really like, even though pretty much everyone else completely hates it. This is one of my few older theory videos that I've never stopped believing, and still think is just as valid today as it was back then, and this is the theory regarding Mangle. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to explain to you the backstory and everything for the theory. I'm literally just going to try and convince you, and if it doesn't work, it's fine. Now, I get it. Everyone thinks the theory is complete insane dog shit. Pun fully intended. But I really don't think it's as crazy as everyone says. Some of the criticisms also don't really make sense. Some people think the idea of a dog possessing anything is dumb, but there really isn't any reason why. If a human can possess something, why not a dog? If a memory can possess something, why not a dog? If an emotion can possess something, why not a dog? Do dogs not have souls? If you say no, you are a monster. There's no feasible reason why a dog cannot possess something. Another criticism is the fact that Mangle in Ultimate Custom Night and FNaF AR can talk, and dogs can't. And there's a couple things to say about that. First, while Mangle very well may be able to talk, we technically don't know if they actually can. They only spoke in Ultimate Custom Night, which is a nightmare created by the one you should not have killed, and the actual original characters aren't really there. And they of course spoke in FNaF AR, where it's a recreation of Mangle, not the original. Again, Mangle probably can talk, I'm just trying to say that we haven't actually seen the real Mangle do so. But it also doesn't matter. If Mangle can talk, the dog possessing it wouldn't prevent it from talking, because the animatronic itself is able to talk. Think of it like the Venom symbiote. Yes, I'm gonna try to convince you about this FNaF theory based on Marvel Comics. Yeah, I know. It might sound stupid, but just bear with me. The Venom symbiote is an alien, and it cannot speak English. But when it attaches to a person, it can, because it is linked to their mind and can see all their memories and their ability to speak English. And even if that wasn't the case, if they tried to speak through that person, it would manifest itself as English. Either the dog would learn to speak English by possessing an animatronic that can, or from its perspective, it's just barking, and the animatronic manifests that as English since it can't speak English. Anything that possesses something would gain all the abilities of that thing that it possesses. We know this because Circus Baby can remember Elizabeth's death from two different perspectives, both from Elizabeth and from Circus Baby. Regardless, Mangle talking doesn't cause any issues with the theory that they are a dog. The final main issue people have is the time placement, because Mangle was seemingly created during FNaF 2, but Susie's dog died 2 years prior. However, Mangle also has an Endo-02, the same type of endoskeleton as the withered animatronics. Sorry, no, they have two Endo-02s. At least two, because we can clearly see they have a second endoskeleton head that does not belong to them. The second one could definitely have been one from the first Freddy's, which could have somehow been possessed by the dog, potentially because of William Afton himself experimenting with possession, or just hiding the dog somewhere, and then the dog possessing the endoskeleton that was in the vicinity, who knows. So this removes the problem of the timing. Another possibility, which I brought up in that old Mangle video, is that Mangle himself was at the first Freddy's because the other toy animatronics don't really have proper Endo-02s as we see in the FNaF AR and VR models. Plus, a Mangle toy already exists by 1983, indicating Mangle as a character does too. However, I don't think that's the case anymore. First of all, while I think it's possible that the Funtime Foxy animatronic that became Mangle, not the sister location one, did exist prior to FNaF 2, I don't think they existed at the first Freddy's. The toys most likely do have Endo-02s, only not having them in FNaF AR and VR because of the smaller size of the animatronics, and the fact that unlike the classics, you don't really see inside of them at all besides their faces. Also, with the Into the Pit trailer showing a picture of Toy Bonnie in the first Freddy's, and the old toy animatronic costume looking Lady Fizzy art linking to the Mimic costumes, it's likely that the toy animatronics didn't exist prior to FNaF 2, but the toy versions of the characters did. So the Mangle toy could have just been a broken Funtime Foxy toy. So what actually implies the dog to be Mangle in the first place? Susie's dog specifically. Well, Mangle and Susie have a weird connection in the fourth closet. In the book, the 5 missing children are combined together and infused into the Funtimes, and Mangle is included in that for this book. All 5 spirits are in control of each body collectively, but some of them take control sometimes, such as when Afton tells Mangle to grab the child for him, and then we cut to Susie in the Remnant world saying Afton asked her to do something, indicating Susie was in control of Mangle in this moment, which is quite specific. Furthermore, in the Foxy anime cutscenes from Ultimate Custom Night, Mangle appears in the Foxy side and says some random stuff. There's one part where Foxy says he is leaving and then tells Mangle to feed the dog, then he corrects himself and tells Mangle, "You are the dog, feed yourself." Sure, it's clearly meant for comedy, but that doesn't mean it can't be a lore bit. Also, Mangle is a strong contender for the culprit of the bite of 87. Whether they actually did it or not, they do bite you in their jump scare, and dogs do bite people. Not a strong connection, but one nonetheless. One of the stronger points, in my opinion, is actually Fruity Maze from FNaF 6, where we actually see Susie's story. In the last minigame, Susie's dog is seen lying on the floor in a pool of blood. The body is mangled and is even missing an eye. Mangle is obviously mangled as well, hence the name, and is also missing an eye, which definitely indicates a connection between the two. So I think Mangle is possessed by a dog. Fight me. But I think it goes deeper than that. In the Save Them minigame from FNaF 2, we are shown that Afton has killed 5 more kids. 1 kid to possess each of the toy animatronics. 1 for Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Balloon Boy, and Mangle. Wait, Mangle? Why would Mangle be possessed by a dead kid if they're already possessed by a dog? Well, that's the thing. It's both. In this minigame, the toy animatronics are static on stage. The Save Them kids will possess them, but they haven't. Not yet. But despite this, Mangle is already moving around. Mangle is already possessed. But not by a Save Them kid. Something else possessed Mangle before Save Them even happened. Most likely the dog. But the Save Them kid still has to possess it just for it to make sense. Who else is the last one going to possess? JJ? She doesn't do anything, so that's pretty unlikely. But another thing to note that indicates Mangle has 2 spirits in them is Mangle's voice. Now, as I said earlier, we've never actually heard the original Mangle speak, but assuming Mangle did speak at the FNAF 2 location, we know what they sound like. Their voice in Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF AR has a very distinct quality. There's two voices. The Mangle head and the Mangle animatronic have two different voices. They have two different consciousnesses. They are two different characters just smushed into one. I explained earlier that I think the dog possesses the extra endoskeleton, and it's entirely possible that rather than just being wholly possessed by two spirits, the two pieces of Mangle were separately possessed, like the Stitch Wraith. Also, let's keep in mind, Scott said Mangle's gender was yes. Obviously, that doesn't mean Mangle doesn't have a gender, then he would have said no. It means Mangle is both genders. Are they a boy? Yes. Are they a girl? Yes. That's what Scott said. That's what yes means to the question, what is Mangle's gender? Yes. Both. So, Mangle being possessed by two spirits makes perfect sense, with the dog being a male, as we already know, and the Save Them kid, or the Funtime Foxy animatronic, being a female. I don't care if you think I'm crazy, I don't care if you think the theory is dumb. I like the theory, it makes perfect sense with what we know, and there's nothing really wrong with it. It's awesome. We're moving on now. I don't really want to talk much about the last theory because frankly I don't feel as strongly about it, because the theory basically comes from In the Flesh, and you might not know this, but Bunny Call is actually when I started reading Fast for Frights myself, though technically I didn't read it myself as I was just watching Ozone's audiobooks. I started actually buying the books and reading them at Blackbird, but as I watched Ozone's audiobooks, I took notes for theories that I ended up making. That's what the Pigtail Girl video was that I talked about earlier, and that's what this is. In the Flesh was the Mpreg MatPat story, and I came up with a theory that it was about what happened to Jeremy in FNAF VR. Now, I wasn't trying to say that Springtrap impregnated Jeremy. Instead, I was trying to say that it was possible Jeremy didn't kill himself. The theory went originally that Jeremy cut off his own face with a paper slicer and then killed himself, but my theory was slightly different. I thought maybe after cutting off his face, instead of Jeremy killing himself to escape Glitchtrap, it was Glitchtrap who killed Jeremy because he wasn't able to be properly tamed. However, in hindsight, I feel like In the Flesh actually implies the former option better, even though I use it as evidence for the latter. In the Flesh, Matt cuts open his own stomach in order to be free of Glitchtrap, and he is at peace dying from this. So it would make sense if Jeremy cut off his face to be free of Glitchtrap and ended up killing himself but was at peace with it. I think it could go either way, but I think this option is more implied by In the Flesh, even though I originally thought the opposite when I made the video. I don't know why I thought that at the time, but regardless, I did. Some theories nowadays actually think that Jeremy didn't die at all, which I talked about in a video a while ago, but maybe I'll touch upon that again in a future theory. Who knows? But that's everything that I wanted to talk about for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!
Believe Mangle Duo, it's goated.